Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I am Elmer Jane Tapik, and we are the group 4, and we are going to tackle about the diversification concept and importance. So, what is diversification? Diversification is one of the administrative device of correctional institution of providing varied and flexible types of physical plans for more effective control of the treatment programs of its diversified population. And when we say physical plans or physical planning, is that a form of urban land use planning which attempts to achieve an optimal spatial coordination of different human activities for the enhancement of the quality of life. And the principle is that as soon as there are enough prisoners of a certain homogeneous type requiring a specialized program of custody and treatment, these groups should be separated in a specialized institution because this separation can be done through proper classification. When the prisoners are classified and grouped according to certain criteria, the treatment is more or less specialized since the carrying out of the treatment program is concentrated. And diversification may be done either by building as a special institution for different classes of prisoners is more desirable. Okay? So the provision for the proper segregation of groups give max effective execution of the treatment programs or likewise providing separate facilities within a single institution itself is also less expensive. And big institution may be broken into smaller units because a building special institution requires a big amount of money, and segregation of prisoners is aimed to prevent moral or physical contamination of a group by another and to prevent unnecessary custodial risk. So, the factors to be considered in diversification is the age, the gender, medical needs, and physical needs of the prisoners, and degree of custody. So, when we say the age is that the prisoners who are 18 years old and below should be segregated from the older groups to prevent the youthful offenders from becoming hardened criminals. And the sex or the gender is females and males are separated in separate institution. So the third is medical or mental conditions that mentally ill and sexual deviants, physically handicapped, and hospital patients need to be segregated from the prison population because each group needs special kind of treatment. So the last is the degree of custody. So it is the most used factor for diversification, that is the extent of strict keeping necessary for the person in confinement.
Good morning, everyone. Classification of inmates as to entitlement to privilege. So, inmates shall be classified as follows to determine their entitlement to prison privilege. So, first is detainee. So, ang detainee is a person held in custody prior to trial or hearing. So, letter B, the third class inmate. So, one who has either been previously committed for 3 or more than times as a sentenced inmate, except those imprisoned for non-payment of fine and those have been reduced from a higher class. So, ang third class inmate, morning mga inmate nga ikatulo or more than pa jud sa tulo nga nakahimo sila og kanang krimen. So, letter C, second class inmate, a newly arrived inmate, an inimical demoted from first class inmate. So, mao ni sila ang mga inmate nga bagong abot or gikan sa first class inmate na gikan demote. So, na-demote sila tungod sa mga batasan na ilahang gipakita sa sulod sa prisuhan kanang mga dili maayong pamatasan or nakaharm sila og other inmates or kanana sila yung mga nakaaway sa sulod sa prisuhan maong na-demote sila.
Good day, ma'am. Good morning, classmate. Then, this is my report. Inmate shall be classified as follows follow to determine their entitlement to prison privilege. So, the first class inmate. So, sa first class inmate on whose known characters and credit for work while in detention earn assignment to this class upon commencement of sentence, or one who has been promoted from two class. So ang first class inmate mo na siya ang mga inmate nga mubuhat sa ilahang mga task or mga assignment sa sulod sa prisuhan. Ang mga assignment nila na minahatag sa isa ka piniriso na iginabuhat nila. So sa letter A, colonist, one who was passed as the one class inmate and has served 1 year immediately preceding the completion of the period specified in the following qualification, and has served imprisonment with good conduct for a period equivalent to 1/5 of the maximum term of his prison sentence, or 7 years in the case of life sentence. The inmate becomes colonist upon the recommendation of the classification board after following the said requirements. So, ang colonist mauni sila tong mga nakapasa sa first class inmate na nag-serve na og 1.5 year na walay bad record sa sulod sa prisuhan. Yun lang po. Salamat.
Good noon, ma'am. This is Melanie Jimenez. This is my report in CA1. So, privilege of the colonies. Colonies shall have the following privileges. Number 1 is credit of additional GCTA for 5 days for each calendar month, while they retain said classification aside from regular GCTA authorized under Article 97 of Revised Penal Code. So, GCTA means that it allows for reduction of sentences of persons deprived of liberty depending on how well they abide the rules and regulations inside the penal colony. So, in Act number 3815, as amended certain articles by Republic Act number 10592 and Act revising the Penal Code and other penal laws. So, in Article 97, allowance for good conduct is number 1, during the first 2 years for his imprisonment, the deduction of 5 days for each month. During the 3rd to 5th year, inclusive to his imprisonment, deduction of 8 days a month. During the 11th and successive years for his imprisonment, deduction of 15 days for each month. So, the RA 10592 is an act amending Article 29, 94, 97, 98, and 99 of an Act number 3815 as amended, otherwise known as RPC. And Section 3 in Article 97 of the same Act is hereby further amended to read as follows. So, during the first 2 years, deduction of 20 days for each month. During the 3rd to 5th, deduction for 23 days each month. During the following years, to the 10th year, deduction of 25 days for each month. And during the 11 successive years, deduction of 30 days per month of good behavior. And deduction of 15 days for each month in addition to 1 to 4 each month of rendered services at any time during the period of imprisonment. Number 3, subject to the approval of the prison director to have their wife and children and or other women they desire to live with them in the prison and penal farm. So, upon the approval of prison director, the colonies shall have privilege of to have their family inside the penal colony, and the basic needs are given to the family, but they are bound by the rules and regulation of penal colony.
Good evening, everyone. So, privilege of the colonies shall have the following privilege. So, sumpay ni sa report ni Melanie. So, number 4, as a special reward to deserving colonies, the the issuance of a reasonable amount of clothing and ordinarily household supplies from the government. Commissionary ay commi- commissary in addition to free subsistence and number 5, to wear of civilian clothes on such special occasions as may be designated by the prison su- superintendent. So once one can wear civilian clothes as a reward for being good and exemplary at work. So especially for special event, but it is also valued because of the nature of reasonable service to the law. So that's all.
Hi guys, I'm Ginaido Salvacion Jr., BS Criminology student of Jose Maria College. This is my report of CA1. Inmates who are spouses, husband and wife, inmates may be allowed to serve their sentence together in a prison and penal farm as soon as both are classified as colonies. Diri is ginapasabot is pag pag ang isa ka inmate is mag-asawa, pwede nila i-serve ang sentence na together. Like sample ang mag-asawa is diri na preso sa Santo Tomas or Dapicol penal farm. Ang sa prisohan manggo dili lang kay kanang mostly is ginapriso nara gyud sila sa sulod nagstay. Namgo yung mga livelihood nga ginapatrabaho sa ila sa gawas ang jail management, which is diri sa Dapicol is ang mga prisoners nila is ginapatrabaho nila sa sagingan para napoy income. Next is revocation of colony status. The grant of colony status may for cause be revoked at any time by the superintendent with approval of prison director, correctional operating manual in 1998. Example is ang isa ka prisoner is parolado, then wala niya ginasunod ang condition sa iyang parol, pwede na i-revoke sa kinatastasan or sa superintendent or prison director anytime kung na ma-approve yun sa director nga kani nga inmates is wala ni gipahalagan ang gihatag nga pribilehiyo sa iya or gigrant sa iya nga parol.
Morning ma'am, good morning classmates. It's the report, the place of confinement. So, place confinement means any building or facility and the grounds thereof wherein a court is legally authorized to order that a person charged with or convicted of a crime be held. So, place confinement, an inmate shall only be confined is a place declared by the President of the Philippines or by executive order to the place of confinement of national inmates or by specific directions of the court, provided that a male inmate shall be committed directly to and shall be confined in a prison nearest his actual place of residence. Prison may also be used as a place of detention for other classes of inmates or for the temporary safekeeping of any persons detained upon legal process. So, ang sinasabi dito daw ay kapag ang isang preso ay makukulong lamang sa isang lugar na idiniklara ng Pangulo o ng Pilipinas o ng executive order at sa isang kondisyon na ang isang lalaking bilanggo daw ay direktang tatanggalin sa isang bilangguan na pinakamalapit sa kanyang tirahan o sa kanyang tunay na lugar. At ang at para ang bilangguan ay maaari din itong gamitin bilang isang mga bilang isang lugar ng detensyon na mga klase-klaseng presong tao na nakakulong sa legal na proseso. Thank you, ma'am. That's all. Thank you. Next is security compound. A prison shall whenever possible have a separate prison compound for the segregations of inmates according to their security classification. So, upang matiyak ang proteksyon at kaligtasan ng mga taong pinagkaitan ng kanilang kalayaan at ang pinakamainam na pamamahala ng mga kulungan. So, each prison compound shall be under a superintendent who is assisted by an assistant superintendent. Separate facilities where facilities permit, there shall be separate dormitories to house inmates under the following categories. So, upang makilala ang mga pangangailangan sa ating edukasyon o vocational at psikolohikal na pangangailangan ng bilanggo at ihiwalay ang mga hindi marahas na preso mula sa mas mandaragit. Kinakailangan din ang pag-uuri para sa anumang magkakaugnay na pagpaplano sa hinaharap.
All the lawbreaker will never be put in the same place. They have separated dormitories that can provide their needs while in the state of serving their penalties. When we say dormitories, it referred to the facility exclusively used as confinement area of all inmates within the prison camp with specific consideration on spatial designation. We have classification of dormitories. We have type A dormitories, above 500 inmates capacity in lot area of more than 1.5 hectares, and type B, 101 to 500 inmates capacity and lot area of 1.5 hectares. Type C, 1 to 100 inmate capacity and lot area of 300 square meter. There shall be separated dormitories to house inmates under the following categories. First one is the finally sentenced inmates. They are finally separated from the general population, and it is what we call person deprived of liberty. Death convicted with a life imprisonment. Inmates who by reason of their criminal record are likely to exercise a passive influence to other inmates. And other one is the detainees, individuals who are kept in jail even though they have not yet been convicted of crime. Youth offender of those below 18 years of age. They will put in the custody of Youth Detention Center known as the Juvenile Detention Center or in DSWD. And the first offender, a person who is convicted of a criminal offense for the first time, and they will put in the municipal jail. Habitual delinquent. A person is considered as habitual delinquent within a period of 10 years from the date of his last release or conviction of the crimes of serious or less physical injuries and found guilty of any aforementioned crimes a third times or more. Infirm age, invalids, and other finally convicted inmates whose physical conditions seriously impair their mobility, so they will classified in safekeeping classification while serving sentence by health condition, age bracket, and gender. Those suffering from mental or disorder or abnormality, including sexual deviates, they were put in mental hospital to cure their mental disorder and at the same time serving their penalties. Female offenders, they shall be received only at the correctional institution for women. Example of that is the Mandaluyong, Metro Manila. Drug dependent. People convicted of drug offenses may be sentenced to rehabilitation instead of prison.
I am Rubayna El Abain. So, prison accommodation standards. So, all accommodation for the use of all inmates shall meet the requirements of sanitation and hygiene, with emphasis on adequate ventilation, living space, and lighting. So, It is like a Pennsylvania that all the inmates, they have their own space and their own beds. So, bathrooms and washing areas shall be provided in every prison facility. All areas regularly used by inmates shall be properly maintained and keep clean at all times. So, the prison facility, they have to provide the inmates their own bathrooms and washing areas. At saka, lahat ng lugar kung saan madalas na pinupuntahan ng mga inmates, they have to maintain the cleanliness of it. So, beds and clothing shall be neatly made up in uniform manner at all times. So, the beds and clothing na ginagamit ng mga inmates ay kailangan nasa maayos or nalinis ng maayos at nasa tamang lalagyan. So, building occupied by all inmates must be disinfected at least once a month. So, the building kung saan ang mga inmates kailangan ma-disinfect ito at least once a month. So, youth camps. The Bureau of Prison shall maintain the agricultural and forestry camps where youth offenders may serve their sentence in lieu of confinement in prison or correctional operation manual. So, youth camps. We all know what youth camps is. So, kung sa labas ito, youth camps, ito yung mga kung saan ang mga kabataan gumagawa sila ng mga activities kung saan nag-tree planting sila, nagtatanim at taglilinis. Katulad lang din yan sa loob ng Bureau of Prison kung saan ang mga youth offenders, they have to serve their sentence by maintaining the agricultural and forestry camps. So, that's all. Thank you.